From the land down under, with the rock at its centre, comes the little Aussie Watchman. The COVID-19 vaccine, children and the risk of myocarditis. The largest study I can find relating to this comes from the UK. It is derived from the National Institute of Health, or the NIH, and is based on 42 million people, of which 13 million have had the booster. Myocarditis is a risk that remains highly significant in children and in young adults, especially males. According to the CDC, 96% of those under the age of 30 who develop heart or cardiac issues from the vaccine are hospitalised. It becomes a huge financial burden for families, and the long-term effects of vaccine-induced myocarditis, which would logically leave behind a scarred heart, are relatively unknown. In the UK study I referenced, the Pfizer vaccine third dose increases the risk of myocarditis by 2 times over the baseline risk. This is compared to the risk of getting myocarditis following a positive COVID test, which is 8.4 times the baseline risk. But in males under 40 that receive the Pfizer vaccine, the number only increases by 3.4 times the second dose, and the third dose up to 7.6 times. The risk of myocarditis following COVID infection in this group is only 2 times the baseline risk. Therefore, the risk of getting myocarditis in the male under 40 is 4 times higher when one gets the vaccine compared to one gets COVID. While this particular study have not reported on myocarditis in teenage males, we know that this risk keeps on increasing. And we also know the risk of COVID infection decreases, not just because of their young age, but also because the virus itself is becoming less and less pathogenic or disease-causing as it continues to degenerate by mutation. For children under 18, COVID is rarely fatal and the survival rate is 99.995%. Given that the risk of death in this group is comparable to the common cold, it is hard to understand the logic behind giving a vaccine to children for which we know for sure there are significant risks and the long-term effects are unknown. There have been no long-term studies for the vaccine. The FDA, the US regulatory organisation, have determined that the vaccine will give more benefit than harm for 5 to 11-year-olds. How they reached that determination on October 29, 2021 is quite mind-boggling. It was determined on a study of 3,100 children and then extrapolated to the entire population. The determination is fundamentally flawed for quite a number of reasons. It pre-assumes that all children in the US have not had COVID without realising that a significant portion have already had it, at least 42%. And given that natural immunity is much better than vaccine-mediated immunity, the vaccine will only harm these immune children for no added benefit. When this number is included, then the risk of hospitalisation and ICU stays is greater in the vaccinated cohort. Secondly, the FDA vastly underestimates the risk of myocarditis in young children, placing it at 106 per million, while the latest data says that up to 200 cases per million of children vaccinated get myocarditis. That's in the 12 to 17-year-old age group. When those numbers are included, the harm caused by the vaccine increases still. The third reason that the determination is flawed is because it does not consider that a significant portion of children who had been diagnosed with COVID in hospital did not go to hospital because of COVID, therefore inflating the COVID hospital numbers. According to a Stanford hospital study, this number is up to 45% of those in brackets COVID infections. Lastly, the FDA investigation also cherry-picked the highest hospitalisation rate per COVID infection and did not consider the rapidly waning immunity from the vaccine. Given that those on the board of the FDA are not unintelligent and would have likely worked this out for themselves already, why did they still recommend the vaccine to children? The answer is simple. It's money, lots of money, and more money, and a healthy serving of evil intent.